Good evening, folks, and welcome to Beer Rating with Sean Connors. I've been having some technical problems, so this beer actually opened a minute ago. So I'm just going to go ahead and serve it up, and then I'll read the label and do a review. So I just want to pour it as it's already been opened. Only about, I'd say about a minute and a half ago, so shouldn't be long enough to make a difference or cause it to be flat. And I'll give it the smell test. Pretty kind of a fruity smell to it and a hoppy, which to be expected. It is an IPA. I'll talk about that in a second. Not bad, and it's better than I expected, and I'll explain that in a second. But the beer is 13 Guns, and I'll just read the label. It says World Beer Awards Europe Gold, so it won an award, gold award. I'm assuming 2014, because there's a 14 there. 13 Guns, an intense hint of hops, American IPA, a salute to the original 13 states of America, 5.5% alcohol. So a little bit about it. It's American IPA, which I'm not sure if I've ever had. I've obviously had IPAs before, but I don't know if I've had American IPA. I think most IPAs I've had have just been a regular IPA or an English IPA. 5.5% alcohol, as I mentioned. Now the brewery is Crafty Dan, and doing a little bit of research, my understanding is that's a craft brewery or subsidiary craft brewery of a larger brewery, and the larger brewery is Twats Brewery out of the UK. T-H-W-A-I-T-E-S. So I think it's Twats Brewery. They've been around since 1807, so they obviously know a thing about beer. And my understanding is that they own a load, like several hundred restaurants, pubs, taverns, inns, and whatnot. And Twats Brewery, for the most part, they brew for their own establishment, so it's mostly draft beer on tap. However, the subsidiary brewery, Crafty Dan, they obviously do craft beers. And as I mentioned, it's a salute to American independence, specifically the original 13 states. And the reason why it was better than I expected is, to be totally honest, I'm not an IPA. I shouldn't say that. IPAs are not my go-to beers. I'm more of a lager guy, Hells, Pilsners, that type of thing. However, I do like other types of beers. Like I like a stout every now and then. I like a good red ale, a good English ale. I'll pretty well try anything. And I find most beers, there's a time and for me there's a time and place. Like if I'm going to a party and I know I'm going to have a little, more than I would casually, then it's definitely a lager. If I'm sitting in an Irish pub somewhere, good chance I'm going to have an English, or I'm going to have a Guinness, or maybe a Kilkenny, something like that. Sitting down to dinner, it might be something else. So, but the thing is, the IPA, I don't mind them, but they're not my go-to beer, and I've yet to have a time and place where I've gone, geez, I'd love an IPA right now. Whereby, as I said, if I'm sitting in a pub, Irish pub, I'd be like, geez, I want some Guinness. If I'm at a party, it'd be like a Hells or a Pilsner. But I've yet to get to the point where it's like, I've been craving an IPA. Not saying I don't like them, but they're definitely not my go-to beer. So a little bit about the American IPA. American IPA, for the most part in the beer world, is a fairly new thing. And probably lasts 30 or 40 years. And with that, it's normally about the time the whole craft brewery kicked off in North America. And with kicked off in North America, you're talking about the 80s, somewhere around there, give or take a decade or so. And in North America, I mean, they want to do their own, they want to put their mark on their beer type of thing. So the American IPA was invented. And you might be wondering, okay, what's the difference between an American IPA and an English IPA? And we'll talk about that in a second. The first thing I came across doing a little bit of research is that they said the hop profile in American IPA is higher than it would be in an English IPA. basically, they said the English IPAs, the hop profile is more subtle. And the thing with IPAs, the thing that has never really did it for me is like I don't really like a really hoppy beer. I don't mind it every now and then, but it's not my go-to beer. So when I heard that the American IPA had a more intense hop profile, that was kind of, I was a little bit weary of it. And that's why I said I'm not finding this as hoppy as I expected. It is hoppy by all means, an IPA, but I was expecting it to be a little bit more intense. The difference between the American and the English, it basically all comes down to the hop varieties. They use different hops, and from using different hops, you get different tastes. Generally, they say with an English IPA, it's going to be more flowery, maybe spicy, and maybe a little bit earthy. Excuse me. With American IPA, you're going to get more tropical fruit, maybe a little bit piney, and for the most part, it's going to be more bitter. And I don't find this, honestly, any more bitter than any other IPA I had. So, there you go. And actually, one, I really like this, just to end it. They said, you know, that if you want to know the difference between American IPA and a British IPA, there's a stereotypical difference. And they say, basically, the difference between American IPA and an English IPA is that one is polite and classy, and the other one is loud and proud. So take that as you will. And I'm pretty sure you can figure out which one is which. Not to insult either of my English or British friends, but there you go. One is polite and classy, and the other one's loud and proud. There's nothing wrong with either one of those. All right, to give it a rating, my rating, as usual, out of 5, 1 being a drain port, can't drink it, it's going down the tubes. A 2 being, not a big fan, but I'll finish it. A 3 being a good beer, an okay beer. A 4 being a very good beer. And a 5 being the best beer ever. So for the Crafty Dan 13 Guns, my rating, I think I'm going to give it a 3.0. And that's basically a good beer, an okay beer. And for me, for an IPA, that's not bad. That's pretty good. So there's definitely nothing wrong with it. If you want to try an IPA, for my opinion, even though they say the hop profile is more intense than an American IPA, I think this would be a decent one if you're not used to IPAs and you just want to taste it. So there you go, folks. That's my rating for this week. 3.0 for 13 Guns out of the UK from Crafty Dan. Hope you can join. This is actually one of the second beers that last week I mentioned how a friend of mine gave me, I think it was 12 different beers from around the world. So this is number 2. So I still got 10 weeks left. So once again, a shout out to Mike. Thanks for the beer. And hopefully you can join me next week and we'll try another one of my remaining beers from around the world. Until next beer, as always, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.